It's a gorgeous day here in Los Angeles, and I'm so excited to be joined by Gracie Easton. She is a fantastic spiritual creator, and you would die. You have to check out her Instagram, full of her work and, just a very beautiful and different way of seeing things. And we're going to talk about a few topics today that hopefully open up our senses and ourselves to other ways of feeling, to other ways of being present. So without further ado, Gracie, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be doing this together, to be collaborating. It's such a blessing. It's such a huge, huge, huge answer to my desires.
I love it. I think it's kismet sometimes when these things happen. And the team at Buenacura saw your work online and learned a little bit about you. And we're excited to have this type of conversation that is going to be very far ranging. So I
Yes.
promise to our listeners a really, really exciting times. Firstly, you are a spiritual creative, and that is, a title, day to day, let's call it job that not a lot of people share, right? It's super special and unique. So give me a little bit about what that entails. What does that look like for you day to day, embodying a spiritual creative?
My day to day, I I can start off by like how I wake up in the morning. Like I literally wake up in the morning and I get my sun and I get in the shower and I start doing like my manifestations in the shower just because I know the power of water and I know the spiritual like meaning of all of that. And I'm inspired by my visions that I have in the shower. And then I literally get to work. I'm like, where do I need to go today to film this? Or what do I need to do to create this? And there's also on my day to day where I see something and I'm inspired by it, or I see a way a light flickers and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to record that or I need to capture that moment. And then while I make my edits that I do on my Instagram, I post them on Instagram. And when I do them, as I'm going through the videos and such, like my mind is just like so I just feel like my brain is vibrating. I feel like I'm just like on another planet creating some beautiful art. And the day to day of going out and getting my body out into nature, connecting myself to the earth, it's really brought me so much closer to myself. And the deeper I dive into who I am as a person and allowing myself to be the person that I've always known I was, just giving myself the permission to do that. I get so excited just knowing that, like, wow, Gracie, like you're really doing what you always wanted to do. Like little me had all of these dreams and now I'm like getting emotional because it's just so like
It's beautiful.
powerful. Yeah, it's just so powerful. The fact that I get to pursue my dreams and the fact that things are unfolding for me the way that they are, it's so beautiful. And I'm so hopeful of the way that us as a collective of human beings are healing through art. And I see the huge, huge value in expressing ourselves through our art. And so that's what I do. I wake up an artist. Like I wake up ready to go.
Love that. And I think, in Latino households, I know you and I shared that we both come from Mexican backgrounds. And, in our homes, sometimes the job of a creative wasn't an option for us. Our parents went to work in traditional jobs that we all knew, and knowing that a different career path was available to us for Latinas wasn't something that we innately knew when we were young. So I'm so excited that you're able to share the path that you took as a creative and that hopefully you inspire. You talk about how proud you are and how, that little girl would be so proud to see what you're doing now. And my hope is that someone out there is young and listens to you or comes across your content and then realizes that that is also a path for them. I think in our community, there's a lot of times that we lack visibility and being exposed to things. It took me to leave home for college for me to realize a lot of the different types of jobs that were out there that I had no idea I could, take or have that type of life. So I'm excited that you're
Yeah.
getting that work out there and that, hopefully Latinas out there are looking at you as an example and saying, this is a path we can pursue. Why don't we get to do, something as beautiful as creating art and expressing ourselves in a way and making that our life path? You talk about manifestation, and you talk about, making that a part of your day very early in the morning. I love manifestation. I think, it's very real. Once you put something down in writing or you put your consciousness to it, it becomes real. And that has been my experience. But there's, some people out there that don't have a lot of experience with manifestation and they feel that it might be a little woo woo. So can you explain to us, what manifestation is for you and just practically how is it that you do it?
So I grew up going to a Christian church, and I was very involved in the worship team. I was part of the choir, and I was part of like the prayer groups. I was part of the youth leadership. It was called like youth leader in training, basically is what it was. And then when I turned 20, I stopped going to the church, and I started being in part of that church so involved when I was 14. So from 14 to 20, 6 years, I was just always seeking a relationship with the divine. And I had, the example of what I can do. And I knew that there was something more. And something that always stuck to me, my mom used to always pray this for me. She would always say, your words have power. It's one of like the verses in the Bible. I don't know the exact verse, don't quote me. She would always say that, and it stuck with me so much. And so I started really just desiring my dream life, and I always knew exactly what I wanted. I just was scared to like say what I wanted because I was afraid of the rejection that comes after admitting it and then it doesn't happen. So manifesting to me, I will just keep the fact that my words have so much power, and experiencing like verbal abuse being a child and just like not having my parents or my siblings say nice things, I saw how it did affect my way of thinking about myself. And so I just noticed that. And when I became a mom, I decided that I was going to be the most amazing, iconic woman that I could become because that's always what I wanted to do. And so I started just speaking words of love to myself and speaking words of empowerment to myself because I knew that my words had power. And anything I ever say comes true. Anything I ever have visions of comes true. So I've always had an inner knowing of my power. It's been around 2 years of me actually aligning with that power and seeing that unfold for myself and seeing my dreams unfold is like so surreal. Like doing this today is so surreal. And it's just like manifesting for me. I choose who I am, and nobody is in control of my life. I'm in control of my life. And if I say I want to be someone, then I can choose to be that person. And so I speak those words to myself. Just any mental switch that I can put in myself that I can just help my nervous system understand that I'm safe. I'm safe to have these desires of my heart. I'm safe to want these things for myself and my life. And not only am I safe to want them, I'm also way more than deserving of receiving it. And so just aligning with that fact that I am deserving of my dreams, I am deserving of my desires, actually fully aligning with that, just it brings in so much beauty because I see the things that flow in.
And I also think there's some magic in calling these things to existence. I can't take credit for this, but I heard it somewhere on the topic of manifestation that it's kind of like when you're shopping for a car and let's say you want to buy a red Prius. Next thing you know, you're on the road and all you're seeing are the red Priuses on the road, right? Whereas before you didn't see any of them. So I think manifestation can also work in that way when you call it, to consciousness, when you're thinking about it, you're shining a flashlight, a spotlight on the things that will get you in the path to whatever it is that you need. So I do find that there's a lot of, interesting things with manifestation and, I'm a big fan. Goal writing is a form of manifestation in my book. Every end of year, for business, for family, I'll sit down and write goals for those big categories: fitness, family, finances. And I find that just the act of writing it down makes it salient in my consciousness. And then as the months or, the year progresses, I find myself, reaching those goals. And it's really interesting. And it's a practice that I think doesn't get enough credit.
No, it doesn't get enough credit at all. And the fact of writing it down, the fact of like making it physical allows the universe to see, okay, this is real. Like this is real. It's physically there. So let me make it real because the universe never wants to look like a liar. So if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're doing mirror work in the morning and you're telling yourself, I'm the most iconic woman ever. And if you truly say it, you say it, then the universe is not going to let itself look like a liar. So it's going to make that reality true because the universe is not a liar.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's so strong and a great practice I think everybody should adopt. You also mentioned going out and connecting your body to nature and allowing yourself to do that. So give me, a bit more detail regarding what that entails. Is it a long walk? Is it, a meditation outside? What does connecting your body to nature look like?
So when we were looking for our home, I really wanted to be near the water. Naturally, I'm a Pisces and I just want to be near the water. So I had that big dream and I had that big vision in me. And so I started just going to the water every day. I lived in a city that's like the crime rate is higher and we knew we wanted to move because we had our son. And so I started just doing my inner work. And by wanting to do my inner work, I had the craving to go outside. I also had a really magical experience with hummingbirds. And now I have a hummingbird feeder like in my last house and this house. And it's just me acknowledging that nature is as alive as I am, so I'm creating my own song. And with the song, I'm going to the water and going and singing the song to the water so that the waves can get full of my voice and then take it to the rest of the world. It sounds so woo
Oh,
woo.
that's a beautiful visualization. It is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so just going to the water and literally going to a tree and hugging it and like picking off the moss off of it and like making it look cute. And then I love plants. I have a million plants all over my house. So I have cuttings and I will put like shells in there. I basically create a little fairy land inside the container and then I'll put like the water and the plant in there. So I honor earth in such a just it's a part of who I am. Me and my best friend have an inside joke that I was a weeping willow in my
Mhm.
past life because I'm always crying, not always crying, but
I
I just
love
allow my emotions to be what they are. Yeah.
Amazing. And as part of your craft, focus a lot on photography, videography. I know you have a song that you're releasing soon, but talk to us a little bit about your photo and video work.
So was never comfortable with how I looked in the mirror. I had this inner story of myself that wasn't my own that I needed to shed. And after I had my son, 3 months to the date after I had him, because I remember just learning that after 3 months, that's when everything starts fully registering in their brains. I just dove so deep into my inner work. I decided to start doing mirror work. I had a friend at the time who recommended that I do mirror work.
What is mirror work, if you don't mind defining it for our listeners?
So mirror work for me, I don't know the actual definition, but the way that I do it,
Yeah, for you, exactly, for you. What does
yes,
that mean for
yes.
you?
So mirror work for me means looking at myself in the mirror, saying positive things to myself, having dance parties and like looking at the way my body moves and watching the way that my smile lines crease and just watching myself and getting comfortable with seeing my skin on a reflection as others would see. And just while I'm doing my makeup, while I'm doing my skincare, just actually getting comfortable with seeing myself in the mirror because for a long time I wasn't comfortable. I remember there was one instance when, after I had my son postpartum, I was just feeling really down about myself and my image and just how I looked and all these things. I was just so mean to myself. And I remember just telling myself, I'm tired of being mean to myself. I'm tired of being the meanest girl I could come across. Like, I'm over it. It's just not healthy. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. Also, I don't want to set that example for my son. I don't want him to think that it's okay for him, whoever he ends up marrying, that it's okay for their loved one to talk about themselves in the way that they do. And I remember catching a glimpse of myself in the mirror and just like seeing, just feeling such a strong disgust for what I was seeing and being like, I'm uncomfortable with that. Like, I'm uncomfortable with the fact that I feel disgusted about myself. And I want to get a hold of that and I want to
Yeah.
heal that. And so I started that journey and don't regret it a single day because now I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, "Oh my god, you're so cool."
I mean, that's so powerful. I went through postpartum myself, and I can tell you there's so many feelings. And I think these are the things that we whisper as women because we're all told, you're so lucky to have a healthy baby. You're so lucky to be able to get pregnant, that we're not allowed to, or at least we don't allow ourselves to talk about some of those things, right? Like you look at yourself in the mirror, and for me, I didn't recognize my body. I was like, this wasn't me before. Or I would try to do physical movement, whether it be a workout or go on a long walk, and my body just wouldn't get me there. My breathing wasn't right. And I can certainly identify with what you're saying, where, you weren't great to yourself and that inner dialogue wasn't great. And I love the way you phrased it, being mean to yourself, because that truly is what we are. We're a mean girl, Like I would never say that, what I was saying to myself, to a friend ever in my life. So, like, why am I allowed to treat myself that way? I think it's interesting for us to catch ourselves. I went to a talk with Andy Galpin yesterday. He's a big figure in the health, wellness, world. And he said something that just stuck with me. I came home and even, repeated it to my husband. He was saying, you have to talk to yourself. You don't have to listen to yourself. So I think sometimes our head comes in with those mean voices and the judginess and, all of those things. And we don't have to listen to that. We have to talk to ourselves and, put in a different narrative that's kinder, nicer, something that we would say to a best friend, to a sister. So, really interesting that, a lot of us are sharing that postpartum, feeling, but not a lot of us are talking about it. I know you also mentioned, healing your relationship to your sensual side. Is that part of that mirror work?
Yes, it's a huge, huge, huge part of it because growing up, I was raised by my grandparents in Mexico. My parents came to the US and they came first, and then they brought my brother, and then they brought my sisters. And I remember arriving here and not feeling like I really knew my brother or my parents so much just because they left when I was a little bit younger. I think I was away from them for 2 years, but I was probably 4 or 5. So it's just like those really pungent years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't feel safe necessarily because my dad was very aggressive. He was just very aggressive. He was just an aggressive guy, just a lot of anger and a lot of rage trapped inside. And I was just scared of saying no and scared of being like disobedient because I was convinced that obedience was like that's what you get prizes for. You get prizes for being obedient. You don't get prizes for advocating for yourself because when you do advocate for yourself, no one cares about what you say, which is not true at all. Absolutely advocate for yourself and absolutely say no to things that you're uncomfortable with. And I just remember being so excited to be with my family, but also feeling so like I didn't belong. And my parents also became parents really young. My mom was 15 when she had my brother, and they wanted to have time together. And so they would take us to my aunt's house. And at my aunt's house, a lot of things went unnoticed. She wasn't watching us as closely as she should have been. Older family members who were also in their teenage years were doing things that were inappropriate. And it was presented for me as a game. Like, oh, we're playing a game and we're going to do this and it's going to feel good and it's all going to be great. And because it felt good, because sex does feel good, then it convinced me that what was going on was okay. When really, once I came of age and I was in sexual ed class, my teacher was talking about like what sexual abuse looked like and what it was. And I remember sitting in class and realizing, wow, like that. That's exactly what that was. And I remember sitting that for so long and being so scared to tell my family what was going on. And so because it happened, a guy is who did it to me, I just was like, okay, so the solution is to be lesbian and to be with a woman because that's safer. And so I was in a relationship in my teens with a woman, and my mom saw messages with her and she confronted me and she was like, well, what's going on? Like, why are you doing this? And we were already in church, in that Christian church that I was like in the worship team with. She was just shocked that I would be doing that. And I told her why. And instead of meeting me with, like, wow, I'm so sorry that happened, instead of doing that, she was like, oh, are you sure? And then she came back in the room later on and asked me, are you sure? And once little me realized, like, oh no, I made a mess. I need to take it all back. I said, oh no, I don't remember. It was dark. And so for years and years and years, I convinced myself of that. And so because I wasn't able to see the story for what it was, I also wasn't able to look at myself fully because looking at myself fully meant acknowledging every piece of my body that was not honored, that was abused. And so I needed to start doing the mirror work and start doing my manifestation and start doing my words of affirmation to reclaim my body and reclaim my autonomy. And my life has turned around so much. Just the way that I address the treatment that I am and not willing to take and healing my relationship to the sensual is me realizing that I'm not a box. I don't fit in a box. I don't. And that's okay. It's okay to have the story that I have. It's okay that the things that happened led me to want to do this for myself. And it's beautiful that I got to clock into that and that I got to take myself back.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing because I know that, it's not the easiest to share those types of memories. And I really want to honor that. And secondly, if your story and sharing your story helps even one person out there to reclaim themselves, reclaim their body, I think, it's the biggest gift you can give anyone. So thank you so much. And I, think that that makes your work even more powerful and even more important. I think, again, in our culture, sometimes we don't have visibility into how this type of work can heal past trauma, past instances. And I just want to commend you for taking something awful that happened to you when you were younger and creating this world that invites others and welcomes them to explore themselves and to heal and to find that healing journey.
Yes, it's been beautiful. It's been very raw. And there are so many moments where I'm just bawling my eyes out because I'm just in so much I just allow myself to be in the feelings.
Of
And
course.
I just allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. And, it's not linear. There are days where I'm just feeling great. And then all of a sudden, I start feeling like, oh man, because I don't speak to my family anymore. After they all knew what happened, they just decided to not believe or be like, oh, well, that's between you guys. And it's like, no, it's not actually. This is something that this person chose to do. And I wasn't able to say no because I didn't know that I could say no. I didn't know that I could say, you know what? I don't feel like doing that because I had no idea what it was. So reclaiming my authority and putting my foot down and saying, you know what? I'm done hiding secrets for people. I'm done being seen as I'm just trying to have, like, trying to get attention because that's the narrative that a lot of Hispanic families have of, oh, well, you must be lying. Or there's no way that that happened. You know, it's like people just don't want to believe that people are capable of doing such things. And I just decided that I was not deserving of that, that I was allowed to choose who my family was, and I was allowed to say no to things that don't feel good for my heart and things that consistently, intentionally try to silence me because that is what they did. When I started a podcast, I started just telling my story, and over the years I just got more and more comfortable with sharing my story. And I still plan on sharing more of my story on my podcast. It's not something I do regularly. It's something I do when I'm feeling inspired. Even if that's in 5 years, I end up telling another side of the story. It's my journey of telling that story. And I remember sending one thing because I was talking about how verbal abuse and any type of mean words can affect the way that people perceive themselves. And so after I recorded that, I sent it to my parents, and I just remember my dad saying, because he knew that, the things that he had done, I remember him saying, "Well, if you're going to talk about someone on your podcast, I recommend that you ask their permission first to see if you're allowed to share that side." And I didn't even respond to him. I just sent him the link, and that was that. I was
Yeah.
like, "No, that's not, I'm done."
Yeah.
And that moment for me was so pungent because it really it was the first time that I completely said, "I'm disregarding what you're saying. I don't even need to acknowledge
Yeah.
what you're saying because it's so not the truth, and I'm still gonna continue my journey."
I think it's so hard for us Latinas to set boundaries. I think boundaries in our culture are non existent. So I commend you for setting that boundary and figuring out what you needed at that point in your healing journey to continue making it. And you said something really beautiful a few seconds back. You mentioned, I realized I get to choose my family and I get to choose who becomes my family. And I saw you interacting with your son Leo right before you started recording. And, you mentioned at the top of the call that you had decided that you were going to be the most loving mother. And I can see that. You can feel it when he enters the room, the way you hold him, the way you speak to him. I couldn't see your husband. He was off camera, but you also were, you gave him a kiss. I imagine he was coming into the home after being out for a little bit. And I can feel that love, right? And I think there's so much power in you sharing your story and then, taking everyone through the journey and letting them know this is where I'm at now. I'm the most loving mother. I have a home with the love of my life. And, I feel it gives a lot of hope. There might be someone out there that is in a similar situation that isn't feeling that hopeful. Maybe they're not believed by their parents. Maybe they still haven't shared what was going on with them. So hopefully someone sees you now at the other side of these things. And I understand it's not linear. You mentioned that. And I think with something that deep and serious, nobody expects a linear path, but it's beautiful to see where you are now as a result of all of that really hard work and working on yourself. And most importantly, using your art to do so.
Using my art to inspire other people to understand that we as individuals are so in control of ourselves, so in control of what we do and what we do not allow in our vicinity. We are so in control also in frequency and in the way that energy travels through this earth because we're all energy, and the way that if somebody is using negative words against you, like this is basically what my song is about, is if somebody sends me negative energy, I'm going to take that, thank you so much for that free power, I'm going to transmute it and it's going to serve me because negative can't be a negative. Energy cannot be destroyed. Energy can only be created. And because I am in control of my life, anything people say about me is fair enough. If you have that judgment based off of how you were raised or XYZ, fair enough, valid, cool. But that doesn't mean that you saying that I am somebody that I am that person, like that you're allowed to have your perception of me. And I'm allowed to take that perception and turn it around into power.
I'm with you. Well, those are beautiful words to leave everybody with today. Thank you so much for being so open and for being so raw and sharing your story. I know I mentioned it earlier, but if it can reach just one person and help out, I think this was very worth our time here. So thank you so much. Where can people find you?
So, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so grateful to be doing this and to share my story. My dreams feel so fulfilled right now. Like they feel so just, I'm in the present moment of it coming true. So it's just, it's so beautiful. I need to take a breath. So people can find me on Instagram as Chica con Plantas, and my song will be released soon. So just tune in for that. I do announce everything on my Instagram, and I go live on TikTok where I'm just like starting my day off, and people can see me starting my just the way that I go about my morning. So that's also Chica con Plantas. So it's just the same username for both. And I'm so excited to get to know any of you who follow me and who are inspired by my story. I would love to just hear all about the inspiration that you received. And I would love to just give you the biggest hug because I see you.
Thank you. We can feel that love. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And everybody head over to Chica con Plantas, TikTok, Instagram. We can't wait to see your song when it comes out. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.